What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in with Callie. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already. So, this better be a fucking joke. I mean, the Clippers organization, they better not be listening to anything the Minnesota Timberwolves have to say. They better not be listening to any trade rumors or trade possibilities that the Timberwolves have to say unless it has something to do with AE, Anthony Edwards, or somebody of that caliber. That should be the only way, because me reading a few sources, I read some sources last week and I see some this week about the same situation, and it's involving Norman Powell. And Norman Powell, to me, what he's been to the Clippers, the fact that Kawhi hasn't been there, the fact that there is no Paul George and there's no Russell Westbrook, he's provided immensely amount of offense for this team. And I don't think nobody expected him to play as good as he did, even though we all knew, anybody that watched basketball over the years know how good Norman Powell is, knowing that he plays a six-man role, but he really could be a starter in the league because he really has that gift of scoring, unlike a lot of players in the league. I mean, honestly, the way he can score, you could put him up there with some of the top players scoring-wise. He can't do much else, but just pure scoring, he's a scoring machine. He can get a bucket anytime he wants to. But regardless of all that, the rumors that are out there, and I've seen several times, is about Norman Powell being traded either by the trade deadline or this upcoming offseason, to the Timberwolves, because the Clippers are looking for more size from what I'm hearing and what I've seen and what I've read, which is okay, but I said Vucevic would probably be the better option to me, specifically on the Chicago Bulls. Pending on, I didn't want them to trade Norman Powell. I wouldn't even think about trading Norman Powell. But I mean, if you want to, maybe try to use that as leverage and then offer somebody else instead, teams do things like that sometimes. They'll throw a name out there and then they'll regress on the deal and be like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll give you such and such player instead of this player. And will that suffice for the situation? And we'll give you an unlimited amount of draft picks, which the Clippers probably don't have much, of course. But at the same time, the Clippers do have some assets. They do. They just don't have many. But regardless of all that, the trade proposal is Norman Powell, and adding somebody like Nicholas Batum in there for Julius Randle. Julius Randle, out of all people, I'm going to sit here and tell you guys now, I am not a Julius Randle fan. I never have been. Never have been. I don't think his game is worth a damn. I don't think he's worth a damn. I personally think his game is just good enough to be in the G League. He had moments in New York where he looked all right. But I mean, if you were the guy in New York in your prime, you let Jalen Brunson come to New York when he was like a bench player or a second or third guy on Dallas a few years ago with Luka, which I think that's where he really should have stayed. Him and Luka would probably, I think him and Luka would have won the championship last year against the Celtics. I think Jalen Brunson is really that good. I'm not saying Kyrie isn't that good, but I think Jalen Brunson is more of a pure scorer in with the mindset of attack. Whereas Kyrie, he's so good. He's so crafty and he's so skilled. He kind of like picks and chooses times when he want to flip the switch now. Whereas Jalen Brunson doesn't play like that because, of course, he's a lot younger and he's still trying to build his resume to where he's trying to get to. Whereas Kyrie already built his resume because he's been in the league a long time. So it's understandable. But either way, I don't think the Clippers should ever go after or even look at Julius Randle. I just don't. I think he's trash. I never liked his game. I never liked anything about his game. He's so inconsistent. He has moments where he looks okay, but against the top players, he looks like trash. Against the above average players, he looks like he fits in at times, but then at times he plays lesser. He plays lesser than that. So, I mean, I just don't think the Clippers would benefit from him any. I mean, honestly, you get him to come in there and he's going to play with Zubac on the floor as a power forward maybe. And, he's basically like a player with two left feet to me. I just never been impressed by his game. I mean, think about it. I mean, he just doesn't last anywhere. The Lakers didn't want him. You go to New York, you're supposed to be the guy in New York. And the only reason why he was the guy in New York because they didn't have any damn body else to give the guy title to. So they gave him like that $80-something million and he flopped. He doesn't show up in the playoffs hardly ever. He doesn't play that great during the regular season. He doesn't wow anybody with his game. And he's just not a dominant enough, force to where people speak on his name or give him that type of credit because it's like he really doesn't deserve it. So if I were the Clippers, honestly, I would do my best to keep Norman Powell. Norman Powell's a scoring machine. If anything, get him. If you don't want him in the start lineup, let him come back off the bench and play with the rest of the guys on the bench and give them more balance offensively. Because if they think that Julius Randle's going to give them balance, he's only going to give them more opportunities to fail. That's honestly what he's going to do. I don't think he's doing that great in Minnesota either. I mean, he might have moments in Minnesota, but honestly, I think Minnesota rather would have kept Karl-Anthony Towns. I think they're regretting it more than what they'll probably ever come out and say. Now, of course, they're going to do their best to try to make it work and everything. You still got your superstar in Anthony Edwards, but that's the reason why they got rid of Cat, because it's like you didn't want to toss it back and forth between whose team it is. So, I mean, you had to give it to Anthony Edwards because he's more of the highlights superstar type player, and I respect that. But, I mean, honestly, the trade was I didn't think it was going to work out from the beginning because Julius Randle's just not a guy you build with. He's just not. He could be the fourth guy on a team, but not the second guy. Definitely not the first guy. So, I mean, I think the Clippers would just be regressing, bringing in a player like him. I would keep what you have and kind of keep going what the direction is of where you're going and try to find somebody like Vucevic or somebody like that or anybody else in the league, honestly, besides Julius Randle. I just don't think he'd be a fit for the Clippers. And if the Clippers give up Norman Powell for him and Nicholas Batum, somebody who's still got maybe a year or two left in his legs who can give them, more stretchability of shooting a three and defending in the perimeter still at his age, I just think the Clippers will be making a huge mistake. And then on top of that, hypothetically, if Kawhi does stay healthy when he comes back going into next season, he's definitely not going to want to stay bringing in pieces like Julius Randle, who he know is trash.